All right, well, hi everybody, welcome. Thanks for joining us at our very first General Plan Sonoma Community Workshop. We have a couple of quick housekeeping items to cover. First, just want to let you know that this meeting is being recorded. Also, we have Spanish interpretation available, so I'm going to ask Julie, who's our Spanish interpreter, to make a quick announcement in Spanish just to explain how to hear the interpretation. So Julie, can you give your announcement?
I can. Muy buenas noches y bienvenidos a nuestro primer taller sobre el Plan General de Sonoma. Hay servicios de traducción para esta reunión. Si prefiere escuchar en español, puede hacer clic en el círculo donde están los 3 puntitos al pie de su pantalla de Zoom y seleccionar el idioma español y puede escuchar la presentación en español. Cuando es tiempo de las preguntas, estas serán traducidas al inglés. Muchas gracias. Back to you, Tanya.
Great, thank you, Julie. And thanks again to all of you for joining us tonight. As I said, this is our very first community workshop for General Plan Sonoma. This is a project to update the county's general plan. So tonight is really a big milestone for the project. We're going to be focused tonight on hearing from you about your vision for the future of the county. And our team is all very excited to hear from you, and we all really appreciate you giving your time to this important work. My name is Tanya Sundberg, and I'm with PlaceWorks. We're a consulting firm that the county hired to help with this general plan update. We have a really great team of staff from both PlaceWorks and Permit Sonoma here tonight to help facilitate this workshop. I'm not going to go through the whole list of names, but you can find us all with our General Plan Sonoma video background. And you can also see that our staff has Sonoma County references in the screen name. Ross, I'm going to just ask if there's anybody else that you want to call out before we move into the presentation.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Thanks, Tanya.
Great, thanks. All right, so let me start sharing my screen. Give me just a moment. All right, can I get a thumbs up that you can see my presentation? Awesome, thanks. Okay, so just going to start here with an overview of how tonight's meeting will go. We already covered the welcome and introductions, and I'm about to give a presentation with some background information about what we're here to talk about, what's ahead. That will be followed with an opportunity for questions and answers about the project. And then the bulk of the meeting tonight will be focused on hearing from all of you about your vision for the future of the county. We're going to start that off with a quick vision poll, and then we'll break up into small groups for small group discussions. So you'll be sent to a breakout room in Zoom, and each group will have a staff person facilitate a discussion about your vision for the future. So that's going to be the bulk of the meeting. And then we'll come back together in this large group, and we'll have a spokesperson from each group give a brief report back to share what they talked about so we can hear about the other groups. And then we'll wrap up the meeting with a quick summary of next steps. So for this first portion of the agenda, when we're all in a large group, we have this meeting set up so that you're only able to communicate with hosts and co-hosts using the chat. But as I pointed out on the last slide with the agenda, we're going to spend most of the meeting working in small groups in those breakout rooms. And that's where you'll have the ability to unmute yourself and speak. So you're not going to be silent for the next 2 hours. We really want to hear from you and what you have to say. But for now, while we're in this large group, if you do have questions, we want to show you how to communicate those questions with us. So you can see these directions on the slide. You can start by looking for the chat button that's at the bottom of your screen. And if you have questions about the project that you'd like us to answer during the questions and answers section of the agenda, then you can send those to my colleague Angelica. Her screen name is Project Questions, Ask Me. So I send her those questions via chat. And then if you have any kind of Zoom related questions or technical problems, please send those to Cliff, and Cliff's screen name is Zoom Questions, Ask Me. So hopefully they're easy to find in the participant list. So let's start by just covering some background information about the general plan so we all have a shared understanding of what it is we're working on. So what is the general plan? The general plan is a long-term plan. It's typically planning for about 20 years out, and it lays out the community's vision for the future of the county. The bulk of the general plan is made up of a range of policies that guide the county government to make decisions that will help make that community vision happen, including how the county will grow and how it will conserve resources. And by laying out this vision and its supporting policies, it provides a really clear guide for county government to make fair and consistent decisions that support the community's vision. Also, I want to point out that a big part of the general plan is focused on how land can be used or developed in the county. You can see here on this slide a map of the county that's called the land use map. This is an important part of the general plan, and I know it's really detailed and I don't expect you to understand or read it, but want to just kind of point out what it is and explain that each color on this map shows the type of land use that's allowed on the parcel. So each color corresponds to a land use like residential or commercial or agriculture. So this is an important part of the general plan. It kind of provides a blueprint for how land can be used in the county, which really has a lot of impact on how the county looks and feels and what the future is. One important note about this project is that the county general plan is focused on the unincorporated parts of the county. Each incorporated city or town has their own general plan that applies to the area within the city limit. So we are really focused on the unincorporated parts of Sonoma County. So you might not have ever really interacted with a general plan in the past, but it does really have some real effects on your day-to-day life. So I want to take a minute to talk about those here. As I pointed out on the last slide that showed that map of allowed land uses, the general plan guides what kinds of land uses can be developed and where. So that affects how you and your neighbors can develop and use your property. That land use map also affects where job generating uses and commercial uses and services can be developed. So that can affect how easy it is for you to find a job that's close to you, or how easy it is for you to access a grocery store or other shopping. And then the general plan also guides how neighborhoods can be developed, which affects the look and feel of your neighborhood. The general plan also guides how roadways are designed and improved, which affects how easy and safe it is for you to get around using different types of transportation. It guides whether there are parks nearby, how well they're maintained, and also how to protect you and your property from risks from natural hazards like earthquakes and flooding and wildfires. The general plan also guides how we protect and conserve resources you might care about, including cultural resources like historic buildings, resources important to local tribes, and natural resources like creeks and wetlands and open space areas. So these are just some examples of how the general plan affects daily life in Sonoma County. It does cover a really wide range of topics beyond just those that I mentioned, but just wanted to kind of highlight some of these to give you a flavor of what it covers and why this general plan matters. And that brings me to this important point and why it's so great that all of you are here tonight, which is that the general plan is your chance to have a say in what Sonoma County will be like in the future. It really is a foundational document that sets the course for the county's future. So thank you again for being here tonight. So now that you know, hopefully, what the general plan is, we wanted to share a brief overview of the history of Sonoma County's general plan, just to give you some context for this general plan update process. So the county's first general plan was adopted in 1978, and it had an emphasis on protecting agricultural lands, open spaces, and community character by focusing development in urban areas. Its first update happened in 1989 when the county added some new elements, which are just basically topics that state law required general plans to address. So that was part of that first update. That update also furthered the county's preservation policies for agricultural and resource lands, including additional protections for streams and scenic resources. And the last update happened in 2008 to prepare your current general plan, which is called General Plan 2020. This update added policy guidance to support affordable housing and protecting resources, such like water resources. And it also provided some localized policy guidance for specific areas of the county. So with that background, we're now going to dive into this general plan update and what we're focused on at tonight's workshop. So this slide here presents an overview of the schedule for the first phase of the general plan update. We're calling this phase the community vision phase because it's focused on establishing the shared community vision for the future of the county. So this is the overview of that community vision phase. You can see we kicked off the project last summer, and since then we did some background work, some planning work to prep for our community engagement that's starting now in January. So we're starting to talk with you and others in the community through this first set of community workshops. That tonight's the first one, and these are going to continue through February. And then beyond those workshops throughout the spring, we'll be continuing to engage the community through a variety of activities. And then the plan is to wrap up all of that engagement for this first community visioning phase in June. And then at that point, we'll prepare a report to the Board of Supervisors to present what we heard from the community and present options for how to proceed with the second phase of the update in a way that responds to the vision. So we anticipate that Board of Supervisors meeting will happen this August. And at that point, the county will move forward with the next phase of the update, which will be to prepare the new general plan. So that second phase is still unplanned. You know, a lot of that's going to happen at that August board meeting. But just want to note that there will certainly be continued community engagement in the next phase. So your role and the community's role is not going to end in June. You'll continue to have a part of the process. So as you saw in our schedule, we're really all about community engagement right now, and that's going to happen through this June. So here's an overview of the different ways we're engaging the community. So first up is these community visioning workshops, which this workshop is part of. This is part of a series that's being repeated with workshops in multiple locations and venues through mid-February. So at all of these workshops, we're asking some pretty broad questions about your vision for the future on a range of topics that will be covered by the general plan. More to come on that as we continue. We also just launched an online visioning survey today that asks for similar input that we're asking you about tonight, but we're doing that in an online format to try to hear from more folks. And then coming up, starting soon, we'll be holding another round of workshops that will be focused on local community issues. We'll be meeting with underserved community members to hear about issues and needs from those community members. We'll be attending community events like farmers markets and cultural celebrations, both to help spread the word about the project and to hear more from these community members about issues that are important to them. We'll also be attending advisory council meetings and consulting with local tribes. So lots of engagement as part of this process. Also want to just highlight that we've been using the county's website, newsletters, social media, and community-based partners to help spread the word. But I really encourage all of you to help let people know about what's happening so they can get involved. So please spread the word, share this website and information with your friends and family. So tonight's workshop is focused on hearing from you about your vision for the future of Sonoma County. We'll be using your ideas from tonight and along with ideas from others that participate in this process to write up a vision statement and a set of guiding principles for the general plan. So the vision statement will describe the future of Sonoma County about 20 years out from now, and it will highlight the shared community values that we hear from all of you. Then that vision statement will be supported by a set of guiding principles that speak to specific topics that are covered by the general plan. So the guiding principles kind of break up the elements of the vision into more bite-sized pieces that are focused on different topics. And then those in turn will set up a framework for the goals and policies that will make up the bulk of the general plan. So the vision and guiding principles are really kind of the foundation for what goes into the general plan. And the vision statement and guiding principles will be entirely unique to Sonoma County because it's going to be written by all of you. So that's a fun part of it. So just wanted to help you picture what the vision statement will be. So we collected a couple examples to show you just briefly. Certainly don't expect you to read all these words, but just to give you a taste of what we're talking about. So this first example is from the new Santa Rosa General Plan that's being developed. It's almost done. But they prepared their vision statement as a series of bullets that you can see on the right side of the screen. They have statements like, Santa Rosa is a place where social and environmental justice are achieved for everyone. And Santa Rosa is a place where the health and safety of everyone is supported. And then they also prepared a brief summary version of the vision statement over here on the left, both as a text review and as a diagram form. And then just really quick, here's a couple other recent examples from the cities of Livermore and Modesto. They show you how you can break up the vision into guiding principles like we talked about over here in Livermore, and then the shared values example in the Modesto vision statement over on the right. So this last part of the presentation, I'm going to provide a quick overview of the general plan topics that you're going to be talking about in your small groups. So these are topics that will be covered by the general plan and that we anticipate the community will want to have focused conversations about. So that's why we pulled these out and highlighted them. So the first topic that we'll be asking you about today is growth management and development. So we want to hear from you about how you think growth, conservation, and quality of life should be balanced in the county. This includes like where new types of development should go. Things like how, where you want to see more jobs or more housing. And we also want to hear about how dense or intense that development should be. So for example, do you want to see new apartment buildings in this area, or would you rather see something more like homes with big yards? That's what we mean by the density of development. We also want to hear your thoughts about how new development should fit into established communities, along with any thoughts you want to share about how to make sure there's adequate public services and infrastructure to serve new development. So we're talking about things like police and fire protection, roads, and water and sewer service. We're also going to talk about circulation. So we want to hear from you about things like how the local transportation system should serve different types of transportation, like cars, bikes, pedestrians, transit, and other modes of transportation. We also want to think about how safe it is to use these different modes, how easy it is to get around, and how sustainable these different modes of travel are. And then we can also cover goods movement, which is how commercial products are moved throughout the county, and airports. This topic, the ecology, sustainability, and climate, covers how we preserve open spaces and sensitive ecological resources, how we reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and how we adapt to the impacts of climate change, things like drought, wildfires, flooding, and rising temperatures. And then we're also going to talk about utilities. That includes things like water supply and service, sewer service, stormwater management, solid waste management, and other public utilities. Economy and tourism is also on our list of topics. We want to hear about how you think economic development should be balanced with community needs and priorities. And that includes any particular economic sectors that you'd like to see developed in the county, or thoughts you might have about how to provide good job opportunities. This topic covers culture, history, and community. So for this one, we're interested in hearing how you envision the county celebrating the rich history and ongoing culture of Native American tribes, along with protecting archaeological and historic resources, and preserving and enhancing the identity and vitality of individual communities. And then we have a topic devoted to natural resources. So we want to hear about how you envision these resources being protected or conserved for future generations. So we're talking about things like water resources, soils, forests and timberlands, biological resources, geothermal resources, mineral and energy resources. And then this topic is focused on agriculture and food. So we're interested in hearing about how to support a thriving agricultural base and how to support farm worker housing and farming employment. Also covers how communities have access to healthy and local food, like through farmers markets and grocery stores. And then this is the last topic we're going to ask you about. This is focused on open space and scenic areas. So we're interested to hear about your thoughts about conserving these areas, how to ensure people have access to outdoor spaces and nature to enhance quality of life, and ways to promote tourism while also preserving scenic beauty. I also just want to point out here that you'll have the opportunity to speak to other aspects of your vision for the county, for the future of the county, if those weren't covered by these topics. So please don't worry if you didn't see your topic here listed. So that concludes my background presentation. We have time coming up in our agenda for any questions you might have on what I just presented. But before we go into the questions and answers, I'm going to ask Cliff to launch a quick poll about your language preferences. This is because when we head into our breakout rooms for the small group discussions, we are going to have a breakout room that is going to be conducted entirely in Spanish. So we're asking if you have an English or Spanish preference for this poll. It looks like everybody's responded. Oh, no. I think it's still going. Give it a minute. How are we doing, Cliff? Does it look like we've got responses from everyone?
Looks like it's telling me 100% is answered, so yes.
Okay. Looks like we're all English speakers. If there are any Spanish speakers that didn't get a chance to participate in the poll, just send a message to Angelica via chat. Again, that's Project Questions Ask Me. So go ahead and close the poll, Cliff. Thanks. Okay, so now is the time in the agenda for questions. As a reminder, just send your questions to Angelica, Project Questions Ask Me. So I'm going to stop screen sharing and ask Angelica to share any questions that have come up.
Thank you, Tanya. We do have 2 questions so far. The first one is, will the county be taking any steps to reduce airplane noise over West County?
So will the county be taking any steps to reduce airplane noise over West County?
Yes.
Yeah, great. I think that's the kind of input that we want to hear from you. If you're concerned about airplane noise over West County, that's exactly the kind of input that we want to hear when we go through into our breakout rooms. And we can dive into that a little bit more and hear about what you think the future of the county should be with respect to airplane noise. So I think if we hear that that's an issue, then that's something that would be addressed in the general plan. County staff, anything you want to add to that response?
I think that sounds
Okay.
good, Tanya.
Great. And I do see Bunsen B, I see you have your hand up, and I think we have it set right now, so you can only send us your questions via chat. Are you able to put your question in the chat to Angelica? No, okay. Well, let's keep going with the questions, and maybe Cliff, we can sort this out after. So Angelica, why don't you move on to the next question?
The next question is a 2-part question. So the first part is, will the general plan include traffic and circulation elements from the existing general plan for Roanoke Park, Penn Grove, and Cotati. And then the second part is, will the plan also include all of Penn Grove specific plan? And then after that, I do have another question that came in.
Okay. It sounds like we're referring to some specific plans. I don't know if the county staff, do you have response or?
Yeah, I'd say that, the general plan will be reviewing, the existing circulation and transit element and policies that are within that element. So the general plan update project. And, review of City of Roanoke Park and City of Cotati general plans will be a part of that process. Also, review of policies in existing specific plans like the Penn Grove specific plan will also be included in that process. So yes, yeah, definitely a good question and things that we will be considering going forward.
Thanks, Ross. Angelica, you said there was another piece to that?
The next question is, what is the status of the environmental justice element? And then they sent a clarification meant to ask, has the environmental justice element been developed and adopted, or will it be developed as part of the general plan?
I could take that one too. So the environmental justice element is currently in development. It has not been updated, but the plan is to get it to the board later this year and have it reviewed and hopefully in effect so that the staff that are working on that project can join the rest of us and help work on this larger general plan update.
Great. Thank you, Ross. I do have another question that came in. When you mentioned climate change and greenhouse gas emissions reduction, what baseline carbon accounting is being done right now? What is the starting point? I'll stop there, and then there's a second separate question. Just pause there first.
Go ahead. Do you want to take that, Ross, or do you want me to? I could start, but feel free
Yeah,
if you
sure.
want to just dive in. Okay, so I was just going to point out that right now, all we're doing is community visioning. So we haven't started any technical analysis for the comprehensive general plan update. So when in phase 2, when after that August Board of Supervisors meeting, when we move into phase 2, that's when we'll start doing technical analyses like identifying what the baseline greenhouse gas emissions in the county are. So that will be determined at that point in time. I know that there is the safety element update underway, but I think that's kind of separate. I don't think that analysis is being done as part of that right now. So I think that's a future question that we can answer once we're in phase 2 after August.
Okay, I do have some more questions coming in. Thanks everyone for sending over your questions. Please feel free to continue sending them over. The next question is, to what extent do state policies on housing impact what the county is required to do?
I'm happy to start this one and welcome staff to expand. The state does have some policies and regulations on housing that make local governments like Sonoma County that are requirements that the county needs to follow. And some of those affect policies and components of the general plan, including in the housing element. I know you just went through that process in your housing element. So the county has to comply with those state policies. I will also, though, point out that the housing element, because it was just recently updated and is required to be updated on a different schedule, is not going to be part of the comprehensive general plan update that we're doing now. Anything you want to add, Ross, or others at Sonoma?
Yeah, it's as Tanya mentioned, the housing element is updated on an 8-year cycle. And so our Sonoma County housing element was adopted in 2023. And so we'll be revisiting the housing element later. So, as Tanya mentioned earlier, kind of this first phase, we're talking about the general vision for the overall general plan update. And, that's a great time to share, your thoughts on growth and housing and other issues that face the county. And we like to, we're happy to hear from you. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ross. The next question is, when establishing land use guidelines, are there statutory limitations of what the county has considered flexible? Apologies, the question might not be super clear.
I'm not sure if it sounds like there's a sentiment that the county has considered some land use guidelines flexible. I don't know if there's some history there, maybe county staff that you're aware of.
Sorry, I just received some clarification about the question. So it relates to their area of interest, which is agricultural land use. So as an example, will parcel sizes in the rural areas be reconsidered from a blank slate, or are there statutory guidelines?
I'll start by just explaining that the county does retain, their discretion, I think pretty high discretion over how the county regulates land uses, including parcel sizes. I'm not aware of state regulations offhand that have real influence on things like parcel sizes that we're setting, but I don't know if you've had experience with this county staff and you want to expand on that.
I guess I would just second what you've already said, Tanya. And just even stepping back, I mean, the general plan as a whole is a requirement of the state, and we're operating within certain confines and requirements that we have to adhere to. The topic of parcel sizes and of agriculture in general, these are all things that are part of the conversation right now, and they're important things that we want to get your feedback on. So that's all within the context of what we're discussing right now, and it's just the kind of subject that we're here and want to hear your feedback on. So that's all great questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Anything else on that question? Okay. Next one is, can you clarify what is meant by environmental justice?
That's a great question, and I'm happy to start. So environmental justice is referring to the ability for everybody, regardless of their background, their race, their ethnicity, their income status, to have the same right to a healthy and clean environment. So it's become a big part of planning in the last almost 10 years now, through a piece of state legislation that was passed that directed that general plan address the topic of environmental justice. And maybe not 10 years, I think I overestimated, but anyway, it's been a little while. And so, but it's the newest topic that the state requires general plans to address. And so it is getting kind of added into general plans as general plans go through this update process. So as Ross mentioned, the county is already underway with preparing a new environmental justice element to comply with that state requirement, and that work will be folded into the whole update moving forward. So anything more you want to add, county staff?
Sorry, I lost Zoom there for a second. I would say, yes, we will continue to work on, likely continue to work on environmental justice policies throughout the greater general plan update project. But we do plan on bringing the environmental justice element, at least the initial element, to the board this year for review and potential adoption. So that'll be something that's started now and we'll likely continue to work on for the future.
Thank you, Tanya. We also received a question on how does the general plan interface with all of the city's general plans?
That's a great question. I'll just start. So I mentioned this earlier in the presentation. The county has jurisdiction or the ability to regulate land for the unincorporated areas only. And the cities and towns, incorporated cities and towns, regulate the land within their city or town limits. But then there's this area at the edge, right, where the cities may have the ability to maybe annex land. And so there's that kind of buffer area. And that's where it becomes really important when the county and when cities and towns update their general plans, that they talk to each other and think about how the different plans relate. And ideally, we want those to all be consistent. So we're all working towards the same vision for the future of those areas at the edges of the city.
Thank you, Tanya. Next question. After the plan is drafted, is it distributed to all county departments to ensure they are on board with the vision desired by community members?
Great question. I think I'll rely on county staff to cover this one.
Yeah, I'd say that as part of this visioning process, we'll be reaching out to stakeholders countywide. And so, we will be talking to other county departments. And, if we have questions from county departments, another part of this process that we're working on is an evaluation of existing policies and audit of existing general plan policy. And we're going to be relying on other county staff to give us feedback on how our existing policies have been working as well. So yeah, we'll definitely be working with other county departments. And just to add to the question about working with cities, I mean, that's something that we're constantly working with local cities, reviewing their general plan updates, their specific plans, and then also working with the county's local area formation committee, which reviews things like urban growth boundaries, those areas around cities that they may annex and land into the city, and urban service areas. So yeah, definitely a lot of coordination happening at all times, and especially now.
We have two more questions. What criteria was used to determine the keep status on the county's spreadsheet? And this is connected to the general plan audit, I believe.
Can you say that again, though? Can you just repeat the question?
What criteria was used to determine the keep status on the county's spreadsheet?
So we did prepare, as part of our early work on this visioning phase, we did prepare what we call an audit of the existing general plan, where we looked at every policy and implementation measure in the current general plan, and made a preliminary recommendation of how it could be carried forward in the new general plan. And so there was that process was kind of, or the criteria that were considered were things like kind of best practices in current planning, and what general plans are trying to do these days, and what the kind of thinking is about how to have an effective general plan, and also considering like new state law requirements and new conditions in the county. So all of that were part of it, but I don't think there was a clear cut, bulleted criteria that we would share. I don't know if county staff, you have anything to add, but it's not, I think, a simple answer.
Okay, I think for now, I'll maybe move on to the last question.
Yeah, and we're needing to move on, so we'll do this last question, and then that will be it for Q&A.
Okay. In California, we are all experiencing a housing shortage, and Governor Newsom has implemented benchmark or quotas for each county to meet. Sonoma County has a number of units that it must build. How will the general plan make it possible to meet those goals without the builder's remedy being used? And that's the last question.
Yeah, so I'll start by just saying that I think when the general plan is updated, that land use map that I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking closely at what's in your housing element, in particular those housing sites, and making sure that any places that were identified as housing opportunities are carried forward so that we continue to uphold what's in the current housing element. But county staff, do you want to add more to that?
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. That was part of the process of updating the housing element, was identifying sites to be rezoned to accommodate the regional housing needs assessment number that the county was provided by the state and by the ABAG, excuse me, Eric. And so our total RHNA number, regional housing needs allocation, was 3,800 units. And so we went through a process of identifying sites. We presented those sites to the Sonoma County Plan Commission and Board of Supervisors, and they were adopted as part of our housing element and then rezoned to accommodate that existing density. So a lot of that work has been done, and part of state law requires that we have a backup list for sites, and that's something that the housing element policy directed staff to continually work on throughout the 8-year housing element cycle. So that's something we're keeping an eye on and working on to this day.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again, and you can all be ready to start participating in a poll. So we're going to start talking about your vision for the future. We're mostly going to be working in those breakout rooms, but we wanted to break the ice with you first with this quick vision survey for the whole group all together. So Angelica, if you haven't already, just post the link to the survey in the chat, or you can use the QR code. You can scan this with your phone to access this website. And once you get there, you're going to be asked to share a word or brief phrase saying what the future of Sonoma County is. And we can see live results. So I'm going to switch my share to go over there. So start checking it out, and I'll show you the results here in a minute. All right, we have our first response, Indigenous. I hope you all are able to access. Here we go, starting to get a little bit more. Beautiful. So I'm seeing community support, green, connected, pastoral, beautiful, affordable, sustainable, vibrant, resilient, healthy, expansive. At first I thought that said expensive. I thought, Nice. Safe. Family farming friendly. Nice. This is great. Bikeable, inclusive, strong economy, vibrant, rural, livable, eco-friendly, all ages. Nice. Okay. I don't want to belabor this too long because we do have to get into our small groups, but really fun to see these answers as they come up. So thanks everybody for participating. I think you can continue to do this after I stop sharing my screen, and we'll capture these responses, but this is great. Okay, let me switch back real quick. I'm actually, I think I'm done screen sharing. So we're gonna be sending you, Cliff's gonna, just momentarily, will be sending us into our small group breakout rooms. Just as a reminder, each room will have a staff person who's gonna be facilitating your discussion. You're gonna just start with some brief introductions. You'll walk through the questions and topics, and then you'll wrap up. And at the end, you're gonna have identify a spokesperson from your group who's gonna report back to our large group when we come back together. We have an hour, we're starting just 2 minutes late, so we're pretty much on track. We're gonna make sure you have the full hour. So Cliff will bring us back into our full group at 7:48. So we'll see you back then. I'm going to call on the groups in order, and I'm going to ask the facilitator for that group to share their screen showing the Google Doc while the person's giving their report back. And so my group was actually first, so that's going to be Jenny, and I think Jenny, you probably have the ability to unmute yourself now. Can you try that out? Are you not able to unmute yourself? I see you, so you can shake your head. It doesn't look like she can, Cliff.
Okay, now yes,
Oh.
I think I have now.
Okay,
Thank you.
I think it's figured here. So. Okay, go ahead, Jenny.
Thanks, that's helpful. I'll try and remember the main points everybody said. One person suggested we look at everything through the lens of climate. And from that, we talked a lot about things like air quality, water, both clean water for us and water for the environment, the fish in the streams, how we keep enough water, on the land and in the aquifers. We talked about protecting forests. We talked about the jobs housing balance and how to make sure, because when you bring in a lot of new jobs, then you're putting more pressure on housing. But on the other hand, we're aware that we're aging a lot in the county, and how do we bring in younger people and have a housing that is affordable and appropriate for younger people. We talked quite a bit about transportation, wanting to, on the one hand, continue to try to get people out of their cars and have more walkable, bicyclable communities that are safe. And also things like shuttle buses, the idea of electric shuttle buses to help people get from one place to another was quite popular. But we also realized that in reality, a lot of people are just going to go on needing to have a car. And so in some places where houses have been built with minimal parking, there's problems because the parking is okay. That in reality, where planning has been assuming that people will have one car for one house, that's not actually the case, because 3 people might live there with 3 cars. We touched on farming and the idea that we want to see food rather than more wine and cannabis, real food. I think there was concern about pollution and pesticides, again, on the subject of water. Let's see. I think those are some of the main
Yeah,
things.
that's great.
Is
Thank you,
anyone
Jenny.
else in
That
the
was-
group? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. Thanks. It's a great model, Jenny, for the other groups. So I think our next group is group number 3, which is Haley's group. So Haley, you can share your screen and call in your spokesperson.
I'll start sharing my screen, and Dylan from our group graciously was volunteered to unmute and share our summary.
Hi all, I'm Dylan. I'll share a quick summary of the goals and praise we had of Sonoma County here. We wanted to start off by talking about keeping development in urban areas to preserve the agriculture areas for Sonoma's economy and culture. And then we moved on to talking about working on our infrastructure, such as east-west travel, pedestrian friendliness, and waste management with new development. And next, we talked about preserving the quality and quantity of our natural resources by sustainably utilizing them. And then we finished by kind of just praising our current healthy and diverse economy and culture here in Sonoma County.
Thanks, Dylan.
Very good. Thank you. Really good job. All right, next up is Lisa's group.
Doug was nominated, so he's going to be going through the notes.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so we had a great and varied discussion. We covered most of the topics. In terms of growth management and development, there was talking about thinking about future generations, how to accommodate different ways of potentially accommodating your children as they grow up and places for them to live, consideration of accessory dwelling units, and being able to subdivide a property to allow someone else to split off and live in an ADU. We talked about a desire to reconsider parcel sizes and the effect that that can have on future development. I think a general theme was that things are a lot different now than they once were, and there's a desire to kind of reassess, reevaluate, and just reconsider a lot of the goals and policies that might have been established at a different time with different factors like wildfire hazard, climate change at play. There's a desire for more accessible transportation, particularly buses that were more accessible, consideration for aging communities in need of better transportation. We talked about tourism and what pandemic showed about the importance of diversifying economy and not relying too heavily on tourism or putting all the eggs in that basket. And we talked quite a bit about natural resources and about agriculture. I'll try to wrap up here. But I think there was definitely acknowledgement of a lot of large properties in the county, the high cost of maintaining those, whether it's the county that owns them or private property owners, and how to find the desire to find ways in the future to help support management of those properties in ways that would benefit the whole community. And of course, praise for and desire to support agriculture in the county and ways of maybe supporting creative business models to support agriculture in the future.
Thank you. All right, last group. Levin, are you able to share your screen, and can you call in your spokesperson? Hopefully they can unmute.
Can you all hear me okay? Just want to
yeah.
check. My AirPods died, so I just had some technical
Oh.
challenges there. I am the spokesperson. We decided that be a good person to kind of summarize what we went over. So we had a collection of great ideas for accessibility and circulation. One thing that came up is making sure that we have good and improved roads, connecting bike trails from one trail to another, making sure that those aren't broken up. And so when people are on their bikes or walking, there's a better network with less breaks between trails. From there, we touched on agriculture and food. One of the big areas here is supporting agriculture. There's a lot of a range of sizes of farms, but one of the things that stood out is supporting the small agriculture, diversified farming, reduce the restrictions that would allow for other types of uses. For example, being more flexible to allow things like farm worker housing on agricultural land. And open space and scenic qualities, having a balance between new development and open space for preservation, and having strong connectivity for trails and access to open spaces were also themes. And one that kind of weaved its way throughout a collection of the different themes here is fire resiliency for new developments, but also for existing. And making sure that we do a strong and effective job for just fire resiliency countywide. And I think that's probably where I will end off. My apologies, there's some lag, and so anyways, I'll stop sharing screen.
That was great, Levin. Thank you, and thanks again to everybody for sharing all this great input. I know there's a lot to cover, and so before we close, I want to just highlight all of what's ahead and all of the other ways you can participate if you have more to say. So let me go ahead and share my screen one more time here. Okay, so this gives you a heads up about what's ahead. So we are going to be continuing this first round of community visioning workshops through February. The next 4 workshops will be all in person at those locations shown on the slide. And then we've got another virtual workshop just like this on February 19th. So all of these workshops that are listed here will follow the same approach and content that we followed today. So don't feel like you have to make it to all of them, but of course you're always welcome. We love to have your participation. And then, as we mentioned earlier, we just launched today a community visioning survey online, and I think Angelica is going to put that in the chat, a link to that. So if you want to add more thoughts, you can use that survey to do that, or at least just tell your friends and family about that survey so they can share their voice on that vision. And then coming up, we've got those workshops focused on local community issues, some informal community events, and focus group meetings with underserved communities. So stay tuned for all of that. And the way you can stay tuned is to go to our website, permitsonoma.org/general plan. The QR code to that is here on the slide. You can learn about those events, but you can also sign up for our email list, which I would highly encourage you to do so that you are the first to know when we have things scheduled or some other updates that you might want to know about. And then, yeah, I'll just make this final plug about asking for your help to spread the word about this project. Please do tell your friends and family and neighbors about what we're doing and encourage them to participate so they too can help shape the future of the county. Lastly, we have a very, very short survey here just tied to tonight's workshop where we're looking for some feedback about how we did. We want to hear what we got right, what we can do better in the future. And so really appreciate it if you can take just one more minute to fill out this survey. You can use the QR code, and I think this is also going into the chat if that's easier for you. So that's our final survey. So I'm gonna hand it off now to Permit Sonoma staff to do a farewell sign off.
Thanks, Tanya. And, thank you everyone for joining us. I saw some faces that we recognize and saw a lot of new faces too. And it's really our privilege to work with all of you on this general plan update. And, for planners, this is like the main event. So it's really exciting to be starting this project. And just want to say, again, thank you all, and thanks for joining us on our kickoff. So we'll see you soon, and please feel free to share any information with friends and with groups. And yeah, we hope to see you all again very soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you.